Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Pleasure Priority Podcast. I have a very special guest today. Her name is Hailey Thomas, and I know her through the mastermind that I've talked about many times before, Big Happy Money. But Hailey is one of the most effortlessly regal people that I know, and she is such an inspiration to me for everything she's been through, everything she does, and all the big happy money that she makes. And I'm really, really excited for today's episode and what we're going to talk about. So without further ado, hey, Hailey.
Hi, Amber. I'm so excited to be here and to be sitting with you. I think as we were, gearing up to have this conversation, I'm pretty sure I said I love you here before in our green room. And that's like a weird thing to say as a podcast guest, but like, I'm so glad that we know each other now. So hello, everyone. My name is Hailey Thomas. I own a boutique coaching firm where I specifically help first generation entrepreneurs understand the next leg of their vision and then bring it to life. So I work with a lot of women of color, a lot of people of color, folks in the queer community, all the people who are the first in their generations or their families to really create careers and thriving livelihoods as entrepreneurs.
Yes. And just to reiterate, the love is mutual and the love is real. But you are also the host of a podcast. And what's that podcast name?
That podcast is called 1 Year From Now, 1 Year From Now with Hailey Thomas. And it's essentially where I distill all the learnings and the stories that are coming up directly from my coaching clients or interviewing other entrepreneurs about their origin story and their journeys.
Awesome. And you have an episode called The Armor of Excellence, episode number 92, which I am in love with and wanted to talk about today with you and get more insight and kind of ask some questions that I had as I was listening. So can you give us like a little rundown of what the Armor of Excellence is and what it means to you?
Yeah, so actually the concept of the Armor of Excellence came from a client, like most of my podcast episodes come from, but it's this way that people who have been socialized as women or who have, who are people of color, this way that we've been socialized to present in the world where excellence is like the priority. Mm-hmm. And it's a means of protection and of safety. So it's not like it's bad to pursue things with excellence, but it's when that excellence turns into armor and we start to use it as perfection. Mm-hmm. And I think we win a lot and we're always the best in the room, the best dressed, but then there's like the poisonous kind of underside to it where we feel like we can only function if we are being exemplary. Mm-hmm. And on one hand, some of that is self-imposed from all the ways in which you've grown up and we're told how we're allowed to present in the world and how we're allowed to be in the world. But some of it is also how we've been socialized at work when, the clients I work with are entrepreneurs now, but many of them had W-2 jobs for years and years and years where it was, you can't just be okay. You can't just be good. Like you have to be excellent, look excellent, speak excellently. And that's really challenging and detrimental, to our psyches in general, mm-hmm. but to entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship requires so much failure. It requires so much you being able to be like mediocre to get the thing out and to test it. Mm-hmm. And so the Armor of Excellence does, works both ways the way armor does. It protects you, but also it's really heavy and stops you from moving as quickly as you could.
Yes. Resonate with so much of what you said. And I know a common thought with a lot of my clients is you have to work twice as hard to get half as much. Mm-hmm. And constantly pushing the goalpost and pushing celebrations, pushing appreciations because you're not the best or you're not perfect or you haven't gotten there yet, wherever there is, however there keeps moving. And you just get into this phase where you just go.
Yeah. And that I want to be so sensitive to it because you and I both experience, like most Black women have experienced, like that's how we have been protecting ourselves. That's how we've been making money and feeding our families. So I don't want to be like, just forget it and everything's fine.
Right.
Let's recognize that this mode of being has served us. It has a function in our lives and it has served us, but it also is long-term debilitating, just on your physical being, right? Like the amount of stress that we carry, the fear and anxiety that we carry because of it. And it's detrimental to our bodies and our brains to continue to do it. Like once you see it, okay, now we need to address it.
Right. And just continuing with that point, like so much of everything, of all the things, too much of it, even too much of a good thing can be bad. And as you said, this has served us in so many ways for so many generations. Our ancestors had to be the best in order to even get a chance at an opportunity. So it makes sense why we've ingrained that and inundated ourselves with those ideas. But at the same time, when we've done it for so long, it can also skew our own perception of what perfectionism is. So we're out here thinking we're not good enough when people look at us and just be like, oh my God, that's what I aspire to be. But we've had these I don't know, glasses on that allow us not to see or prevent us from seeing how dope we really fucking are. And it just gets into this place where that has served us, but it also serves us to recognize who we are and how much power we have without the armor.
Yeah. One of the things that there are a couple of challenges that I'll sometimes give different clients. And one of them is, hey, I want you to do a B- job on this project, whatever it is, like this new thing. And the amount of like terror that comes up in them, that's like, what do you mean B-? No, it's not going to work. It's not going to fail, or it's going to fail. And then they do it. And I'm like, so here's the thing that you have to recognize. Because of how you've been using excellence your whole life, your B- work is most people's A+ work. So like, you can actually stop giving so much energy to your work. And like, right, we still want to stay engaged with our work and like stay in it, but like you at a B, B-, a C is still most people's A.
And even a B- or a C still isn't failing.
Oh,
It still leaps and bounds away from that. And even if you did quote unquote fail, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just usually just chocked full of learning experiences.
And I think like so what I marry that with in entrepreneurship is like, you have to fail. Like you have to, because if you don't, you're not, well, let me say that you don't have to fail, but the growth is so slow because it means you haven't learned anything. So like failing is actually a part of the formula of creating your business. And if you're avoiding it at all costs, you're actually avoiding growth. You're actually avoiding the quickest way to like understand how to evolve because you're avoiding the failing. So like you said, the failing is not really failing. It's actually the fastest way through. And I was so mad so I was a college athlete. I worked pretty hard to get like, not straight A's, let me be honest, but like A's and B's. And to see that the dudes who mainly got C's and D's still graduated with me and got the same degree I did. At first I was so salty. And then like as an adult now, I'm like, I mean, I'm not like go out there and, half-ass it, but also half-ass gets you results. It does. It truly does. And so being able to, I'm saying all this to say is like, here are ways in which you can start to release the expectations that you're setting on yourself for excellence.
Yes.
Because you have to be able to like let go of that as the life raft that it has maybe been in your life, to be able to rest, to be able to fail and learn and build things and all the things that I'm sure your listeners are trying to do. You have to be able to allow less than excellent, less than perfect in.
Mhm. And kind of as you were talking, what came to mind is like half-assness also gives you the opportunity to receive. Um,
Hmm.
because I wasn't a college athlete, but I went to the University of Alabama, and knew a lot of football players, and kind of the same way you described, like they didn't have to. Granted, a lot of them tried very hard and worked hard to get good grades, and then there a lot of them didn't. Um, and not saying again this is the best way to move through life, but it also gave people an opportunity to help them. Like, where do you need tutoring? Where can I help you, like the teacher, where can the professor help you in giving you a longer deadline or leeway because you had all these practices to get to this game and like all this kind of stuff. So when you don't try to be perfect, you leave space for other people to help you and assist you and carry you, not necessarily carry you, but help you get to the goal.
Well, so I'll give another example because people are like, well, that's those football players and
Right.
whatever. But like last year I gave up. So I was the financial chair, the business manager on the worship team, and the board manager for my church, right?
Mhm.
All these roles. And I was struggling, girl, when I tell you, if I wasn't working on my business or parenting, I was just doing church stuff and getting so burnt out and bitter, which is like how you don't want to do church stuff. It is bitter and
Mhm.
irritated at everybody. Um, but it was only when and before I ended all those roles, I was doing everything I could to like, okay, well, maybe I'll automate this and I'll do that and I'll delegate this and that. And it wasn't until I removed myself or until I stepped back and allowed myself to do much, much less, or it was like, okay, Derek's doing this and Joey's doing that and Benjamin better figure it out because now he's got this task.
Mhm.
All of these other people actually have stepped in and become these really incredible leaders in all these spots. It
Mhm.
wasn't until I was willing to not do everything that it made room for people to step up and step in.
Mhm.
Right? And now there's like 4 people doing the one job that I had, which is telling, but like they're doing it and they're doing it well. They have new ideas and no one's burnt out because the workload is spread across people. Like
Mhm.
part of my belief is that it is better for everyone when we do not subscribe to excellence as armor. It's
Mhm.
truly better for everyone. They get the opportunity to lean in and to, you know, work in the ministry in these ways or share their expertise. And also I get to take naps again, which is very important to me.
Yeah, and just have mental clarity and brain space to just have, not necessarily to even do more, but to just not be burnt out and not be over it and not be bitter about things you were once passionate.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. It truly is. It's so scary to let go, but on the other side of it, if you can move past and move through the fear and anxiety of it, it's truly better. Like in all senses, it is better and easier, honestly.
Yeah. So how can you, or can you bullet point your ideas of how to remove the armor of excellence?
Uh, um, I guess the first step is just knowing that it's there and being able to articulate to yourself where it shows up. So just to get a little bit nerdy, it's kind of like, I'll say it's kind of like Doctor Strange's cape in that it has its own kind of like personality and it moves on its own and it's um you know, if you don't know that the cape can move and do its own thing until you see it do it, you don't notice.
Mhm.
um and the armor of excellence is a little bit like that in that if you're just like I'm just sitting in my office right now, I wouldn't necessarily be like, oh, am I functioning with an armor of excellence up because I'm just sitting here. But if like the first step is thinking about the times in which you've reacted or you've made decisions in a way to pursue excellence in a way that has felt overwhelming, burnt you out,
Mhm.
felt like you had no choice.
Mhm.
That's usually the key is if you feel like you don't have a choice, then like
Mhm.
you're probably operating in that way. So that's number one. The second one is asking yourself what you're afraid of removing it. Like, what do you think will happen? And kind of just safely exploring those thoughts with yourself. and seeing, kind of being vulnerable with yourself and seeing like what's there. Notice and be thankful when the armor has been helpful to you. Because again, we're not like for bashing ourselves of I shouldn't be like this, but how has it been helpful? And then I also like to just like think about what would failing in a scenario look like, right? So like what would it, or not even failing, what would it look like for me to move through like a launch, right? I just had a large launch, but it was a $0 launch. That was a massive fail. And the shame and the anxiety and the oh no that came up, I was able to sort with and deal with, and then move on to my next plans, which are like amazing and great and whatever. But just being like asking yourself, what's the worst thing that could happen? What would it look like to do this next thing without requiring myself to be perfect? We also, you and I talked before we got on, the armor of excellence is, again, we're not saying like, boo, do not pursue excellence and it's terrible, because it does have some advantages in that we are very good at thinking on our feet. We're very good at problem solving. We're very good at presenting ourselves. And I used to feel like those are not important skills, but the more time I spend with people, the more I'm like, oh, y'all can't do this.
They are important skills.
Important skills. And so like, I also like to think about all the skills that I've gained from years of practicing the armor of excellence, but being able to just use those now as like just skills that I have. I find it fascinating that I have a friend who has a much larger company than me, multi-million-dollar company. But if you would ask him to stand up or to go like negotiate a deal and like go speak to a board, he would like absolutely not. Right. Absolutely not. I could probably stand up right now and just come up with some BS stuff because I know how to just like stand up and speak, and that's it. Right. So so that's like a thing I want to add in as well.
For sure. And it's just like, yeah, some people have Toastmasters and some people have parents and grandparents that stand up straight. Don't speak with your hands. Enunciate, articulate yourself, act like you got some damn sense. And
here on these streets. Oh my God.
Act like you've been here before.
I've been here before. Like the amount of times that my dad would have me stand up at church growing up, which this is dramatic, but whatever, to just like read a scripture, to just like stand up and read, not even because like it's a scripture to do with that day's sermon, just like, no, you're going to practice talking today. Like you're going to practice today. So yeah, all of those things are kind of like our secret weapons that we can pull out, not to harm ourselves with, but to like work in our favor.
Right. And they are skills that we learned in the battle, in the fight, but not necessarily skills that we have to constantly be wearing the armor to utilize. And something you went in depth in your podcast, again, everybody go listen to it. But how you were talking about how this is a fight and we're always like on the ready to be in battle. And when you're ready to be in battle constantly, you never feel safe. And in order to try things, in order to experiment, in order to play and have fun, you need that safety. So can you talk to that a little bit more, how you create your own safety, or how you're able to, what ways that you play in your business?
Yeah. So somebody told me a while ago, like the definition of play is risk with safety, right? Like every version of play, I think of, sports or even like chess or whatever, it's risk, but there's boundaries and safety in it. That's like the definition of play, being able to risk and explore within safe bounds. And so part of practicing being in the world and moving in the world without the armor of excellence is that you actually have to go out of your way to create the space, like a safe space for where and how you're going to practice those skills. So personally, in my business, I've gone out of my way to create or to be in rooms like our mastermind, where I get to just like say whatever I want, where I get to workshop ideas. I get to cry to people. I get to like, oh, I totally misspelled that, or that was a bad idea, or whatever, in a secure container, a safe and secure container that's not like out in the general publics, right, of the internet, where we work on the internet. I think in my business, I also have, like, I've got kind of these small pockets of community. I have one locally. There's just 3 of us, and we mainly meet for like life stuff. They're also entrepreneurs, but we mainly meet for life stuff. And that's built up a lot of trust so that when I bring business things or other big important things, like there's room there. I would say even coming up with projects for you to do that the primary goal of the project or the thing or the idea is to play, and knowing that you are going to, no matter what, speak kindly to yourself afterwards. No matter what happens, you will not be approaching it with perfection or excellence. So sometimes that looks like, what's the minimum viable product, and just doing that, even though you could do more, just doing that, and just practicing building that safety within yourself and in this container. So it's not like your main offer, it's not like the big thing, but what's the safest, smallest way that you can practice all these skills and having fun. I think those are the main ways for me. And then I think the other thing too, that I didn't say in that podcast, but has come to me since, like actually playing helps a lot. So like I rejoined a competitive volleyball, like adult volleyball league. So just like playing actually helps a lot to practice playing.
Yes. And so glad you added that point, because that's what I teach my clients primarily, is to play, is to prioritize their own pleasure, whatever that is to figure out what that is and what they want and go after it. And even allowing yourself to try and fail. I don't even like to say fail in that regard, but to experiment in your own play practice and your own pleasure practice, like create safety for yourself, that like, if I can figure this out, I can figure anything out. And I know where I can have fun. I know what creates safety for me. I know what creates joy for me. And I always have that, instead of looking towards like putting on the armor of excellence and working towards a very specific goal. And then that thing, only once you get there, after you get there, will you be able to experience that joy and pleasure. So
it's always the hoax anyway, because we know what our brains do. And it's like, just decide a new thing is important after that.
right.
That's what it is. So I love your podcast for that reason, and your work for that reason, because there's so much value in understanding your own pleasure. Even the pursuit of understanding your own pleasure has so much value, because that's how you learn. It's like a tiny masterclass in how to pursue everything else.
Yes.
So good.
Yes. And like, I mean, all this stuff is a tiny masterclass, because y'all, Hailey is specifically speaking to entrepreneurs in her own podcast, in her own business, but all this stuff is life. Like, same for regular life, whether you are in a 9-to-5 career, or you're dating, or you're in an established relationship, or you're parenting, or you're traveling, or you're doing what the fuck ever, all this still applies.
That's like the fun secret of I always tell my clients, like, once they're in and we're talking, they're like, oh, I don't know if I can bring this life stuff. The fun secret of coaching is that it's all completely applicable across the board. Right? Like, how we do one thing is how we learn how to do everything else.
Right. So anything you bring is relevant.
Exactly. Yeah.
And part of what you said in your own podcast, which I was just like, oh God, gotta bring that up. But you said refusing the pressure to be excellent is a sort of rebellion. Yes. And I love rebellions. I love to be rebellious. And even for this podcast, prioritizing your own pleasure, I believe, is a version of its own rebellion, of its own revolution, because we're not putting anybody else's needs above our own. We're not trying to fit ourselves into any box that anybody else created for us. We're doing whatever the fuck we want because we want. And that in itself is a rebellion. And I just wanted you to speak to how refusing the pressure of excellence is also a rebellion and how that showed up for you.
So it has become more and more evident to me the older and older I get. But typically, when people use the word excellence, what they mean is whiteness.
Mm.
What they mean is as close to the patriarchy as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So as close to European standards of communicating, culture, beauty, presence, like that's what whiteness means, not a certain person, but as close to these European-based standards and as close to patriarchy-based standards, so a more masculine way of presenting, speaking, not emoting. That's actually typically what we mean when we say excellence.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I had a name for it until like recently, and I was like, oh, that's what it actually is. And that's part of why it's so harmful to our psyches and to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Is again, it's just like floating around in the air. When we say excellent, what we mean is closeness to whiteness and to patriarchy. That's what we actually mean.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know that by how we end up presenting and how we end up, with straight hair, and even thinking about like one of the guys that I follow says when people say dress up or it's black tie, typically what they mean is a European style of cut, a European cut of a suit.
Mm-hmm.
Don't mean that's traditional clothing, traditional Indian clothing. No, that's black tie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything has defaulted to this European-based standard. So when I say refusing to put that as the marker at the goalposts, as the goalposts, refusing to continue to tie myself up in that, refusing to examine it, refusing to ask questions, or I want to examine that. I want to ask questions. That is me rebelling against these standards of whiteness and the standards that the patriarchy has set about how I'm allowed to present. I think it's especially important in a 9 to 5. And honestly, I know that's the reason why a lot of BIPOC folk or queer folk started their own businesses.
Yeah.
Because there's no room for us in corporate a lot of times. There's no room for us. And what is required of us is like soul sucking to be able to like participate in those circles. So by not participating and refusing to harm myself to keep up to some standard, that's kind of like a big old middle finger to all the systems of oppression that many of us have kind of grown up under.
Yeah. And like so important, because even the way that you described excellence and being close to the European standard, it goes not only to business, not only to education, not only to image, but like every facet of our lives. And I know for me, I constantly rebelled against the image side of it growing up because I did not understand. Like my mom would always, you have to look like this, you have to do this, you have to, I remember, well, I don't remember, I was told this story by my family members, but the white frilly socks and the patent leather shoes, the little church outfit, I hated it, absolutely hated it. And I remember I wanted different shoes. Like we were shoe shopping and I wanted different shoes. And my mom said, no, you have to get this because you have to look like, because you have, like, basically it was just, you just have to. And like as a kid, I just didn't understand why I couldn't have what I wanted. And she put the shoes on me. We were on the way to church and I threw them hoes out the window.
Oh my God.
Because I was like, if I can't wear what I want, I'm not gonna wear what you want either. And like, so I've always had that kind of rebellious spirit in me in that regard. But in terms of like education and presenting yourself in a certain way, whether that be how you speak or what your credentials are, I was very much wrapped all in that. And which was traumatizing itself because I got called an Oreo a lot. Like, oh, you sound so white, which again is that excellence being wrapped up in whiteness that only those people are allowed to appear this way or have these educations or whatever. And if you're not one of them, but you maintain those qualities, you and yourself are trying to be white, which
problematic on all sides.
problematic on all sides. But yeah, like I don't even know where I was going with that, but coming back, the another quote that you had is basically taking off the armor is refusing to battle, but winning anyway. And that
Yes.
taking off the pressure from ourselves, not subscribing or wrapping ourselves up in excellence as it refers to whiteness is winning, because who we are as we are is good enough.
And I would offer it's more than good enough. It's even better than we could have imagined is what it is. And it's like if the measure, okay, just go with me on this analogy. It may or may not make sense, and I'm making this up as we go. But if the measure of a good birthday for a kid is, let's just say some scientist did a study and it's 4 presents and a party with 12 people at it.
Mm-hmm.
That is a thing we can, like, quote unquote measure. But to take off the armor, to not even participate in that study and say, take that kid to Disney World, you can't actually measure those two things against each other, but one of them is way better than you can even imagine, right? Then, if you get the fast pass and whatnot, but like it's like we're not even playing that by those rules of that game anymore. We're playing a completely different game, and it creates results. It creates, like we talked about, all those skills melded and moving in a person that is completely caring for and understanding themselves. You're not even playing the same damn game anymore. Like, who knows what's going to come out? It's going to be marvelous.
Yes. And that's, I love how you put that, that when we put on this armor of excellence, we're trying to play a game that essentially was not designed for us, that didn't take into account anything that's outside of whiteness. And when we stop playing and embrace who we are and what we offer and what we can do, not only is it good enough, like you said, it is better. It is the best, because we allow ourselves to play, to experiment outside of the game. It's just the game of life. And when we do that, we are winning, because we are ourselves and doing what we want to do in the world without any expectations or measurements or comparisons. It's because, like, you cannot compare Disney to a 12-person birthday party. They are different things, and allowing ourselves to be different and continue to win.
Yeah. And just to, like, be open to what you can't see yet, but comes out of the armor of excellence, right? Like, you don't even know if you've been wearing it for a long time and then you take it off. It's like magic. Like, you don't even know what is about to go down. You don't even know what other things that you didn't plan on are now going to be available to you. It's really, like, exciting.
Yeah, like, you have no idea. And it's not like, oh God, what's going to happen? I have no idea. It's like, oh God, what's going to happen? I don't even know, but it's going to be good.
Yes. That's so good.
But did you have any final thoughts or words of wisdom that you'd like to leave the listeners with?
Thing that I keep coming back to as it pertains to this conversation, and as it pertains to this armor of excellence and how we are just showing up in the world, is that we've been taught over and over again to not trust what is in us. And so that muscle is kind of weak usually when people are, like, start to, like, snap out of that. I see a lot of that when people are transitioning from their W-2 job to entrepreneurship. It's like, like the whatever, the scales have been lifted from their eyes. I'm making all the biblical references today. But it's like, it takes some time to, like, exercise that muscle. So, like, there's a level of grace and care to have with yourself as you're examining this. It is not due for you to beat yourself over the head about how you haven't been doing it wrong, or yes, doing this, but no, doing that. Like, that doesn't help this. It actually is more for the patriarchy and more for some standard that like that's not what we're going for.
Mhm.
So I think as you are examining your own armor of excellence, be gentle with yourself. And know that it happens in like stages. I was the kid that like, no, I was fully on board with all the rules and then turned me the bleep out. And so having to change that at 30, but it's been like a process of undoing and not just like, oh, okay, off and I'm good. And so I have to be continue to be gracious with myself as I go. I think it's important.
So important. We always deserve the utmost grace and kindness because, again, we don't know what we're doing. Even if we have this idea of what perfect is, we really don't know if that's actually perfect. So, as we figure out what works for us, what makes sense to us, and knowing that that can change as we grow, as we age, as we enter different life phases, to have that kindness and compassion.
I'll also just add very briefly, if you do not have a safe container to explore these things with, first of all, you should probably hire Amber. But secondly, that also helps the transition is like deciding this is important enough for you to examine and get yourself resourced in a group with a one-on-one coach. Because I think I have gotten wonderfully weirder and cooler, I think, the older I've gotten, leaning into this, like, no, I'm going to set my own rules. And Amber and I were just talking about how we're like 6 feet tall, both of us with like unconventional hairstyles. I'm right now wearing like giant, I call them my murdered out Doc Martens because it's black canvas on black leather with black laces on a black sole with black stitching. They're amazing.
I love that.
Yeah, but that's not like something that someone who is a 33-year-old mother and entrepreneur is supposed to be like wearing. But I think they're very cool, and so I bought them.
I refuse to wear shoes inside my house. I work from home. So I got on big black fuzzy slippers that keep my feet warm. And are very comfy. And I am, business enough on the top and comfy on the bottom. So
well, and they're both like, all of it is all business, right? Like we all just get to decide that this is exactly what we look like as entrepreneurs, and this is exactly what business is. So
exactly. Yes. And if anyone wanted to contact you or work with you, how would they do that?
Yes. So as Amber talked about, I especially or specifically work with entrepreneurs, first generation entrepreneurs, and folks that have, gotten into business already. They're started, but they want help doing the next phase, completing the next phase of their vision. So I have a podcast called 1 Year From Now. You can find that on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, all the places. I'm on Instagram at Brainspace Optimized. And you can follow me in those places and learn some new concepts. Come hang out. My birthday is in May. And so I'll probably be doing fun trainings and surprises and giveaways just because it's my birthday and that is pleasurable to me. So
yay, I love that. Are you still a Taurus or are you Gemini?
I'm a Taurus. Yes, this is also why we're
friends. Tauruses. Yes, because Tauruses exemplify pleasure. So yes.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on today and having this amazing conversation and being you in general and pushing out what you have to offer in the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Amber.
Of course. All right, y'all. That's today's episode and we'll talk soon. See ya.